Good evening, and welcome to the lineup. I'm your host, Rick Goff. And joining me tonight is my co-host, Anthony Grassi. Anthony, how you doing?
Rick, good to be back.
We are coming to you live from the Athletx Sports Group studios here in Louisville, Kentucky. We were off last week. I was driving back from an event out in South Carolina, and we decided that it was probably in the best interest to take last week off and regroup, and here we are. We're back again.
Happy to be back, baby.
So what'd you do with your week off?
Not much.
Not much?
Just went home a little earlier.
You got that new house going, so you're getting that all situated?
Yeah, I guess I got to spend an extra hour in the new house, and I don't even remember what we accomplished. If I accomplished anything in my extra hour, probably just sat there and stared at my phone, and probably shouldn't have, but here we are.
Enjoy that, because as you progress in your new marriage and your new house, the honey-do list will...
Oh, it's already running.
Oh, it's already running?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She learned early, right?
Oh, well, we've been together forever, so it's not new stuff.
All right, well, let's get caught up, man. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Hopefully we get to everything. I know the last couple of shows that we've done, we've gotten busy in depth into a lot of topics, and we end up running out of time by the end of the show. So let's get it kicked off, and we'll start off with the weekend recap. Oh, actually, before we do that, I want to remind you guys that we are still taking submissions for top plays for May, and we'll run those here in a few weeks. So if you guys encounter a top play, defensive play, home run, dramatic home run, send it to us. We'd like to see it. You can email us at the lineup at athletx.com, and we'll compile our top 10 as we do every month, and we will broadcast that here. We're coming up in a few weeks. Also, the last thing before we get into the recap is it's that time of year, Anthony, and our rankings, our midseason rankings, will be out next Monday right here live. We'll debut them live right here on the lineup.
Can't wait. I imagine there are a lot of teams looking forward to this. The rankings haven't been unveiled to me. They're under lock and key on Rick's computer, I guess. So we are eagerly looking forward to unveiling those to you guys next week.
Well, we're going to be finishing them up this week. We had to take into consideration some events that took place this past week. And so there'll be some tweaks made. And I was looking it over from the preseason rankings to now, and there's a lot of shakeup, as we knew they would be.
As there should be.
Yeah, I mean, things progress, change, and a lot of movement's gonna happen. So I'm sure some teams will be happy, some will be mad, but that's just the way it is.
As always.
Well, let's start off with the recap from the Shipyard down in South Carolina last week. It was at a TBS event, and we had quite a few ranked teams that were in there, and man, I tell you what, it was good to be out there at the Shipyard. If you've never experienced the Shipyard, it's a beautiful place to play. 5 diamonds, right on the water, and that's probably my only knock about the place. There's only 5 fields. That's all you got. But we saw some exciting games, which you don't see happen a lot once you reach the championship games because of the way pitching goes and the teams play. Usually the championship games are anticlimactic, but that wasn't the case in South Carolina. We'll start out in the 13-year-old division, where we had honorable mention Kane Southeast from Georgia. They ruled every team they played in the event until the championship game. And they ended up facing the East Cobb Astros Navy in a game that went 9 innings at the 13-year-old age level. An exciting game. And Astros Navy actually took a 3-run lead in the top of the 9th and couldn't hang on.
Wow.
Yeah. Canes came back in dramatic fashion and scored 4 in the bottom of the 9th. Capped off by a clutch 2-run single by Dylan Black that plated the tying and going ahead runs in the bottom of the 9th. And as the Canes ended up winning 8-7. So that was an exciting game.
Definitely.
A lot of atmosphere around that game. Both teams are from Georgia, so it was fun to be around. I watched it, and it was very exciting. Move on to the 12-year-old division. We had 4 of our ranked teams there. We had number 1, East Cobb Astros Orange, number 8 SBA Futures, and then we had honorable mentions Line Drive Black and the East Cobb Astros Navy. And going into the tournament, Astros sported a 44-0 record. They hadn't lost all year.
Wow.
Yeah, they were chasing the Canes from last year, as you remember, that went through the season undefeated. Well, it didn't work out for the Astros. They actually ended up losing in pool play to Line Drive Black. Another good game that saw the Astros fall, but they didn't knock them out of the tournament. It just affected their seeding. And they came back. And ended up winning the event. They come back through the bracket play and ended up winning, and they ended up avenging that loss to Line Drive in the finals. So now they set with one loss, and we'll keep an eye on them the rest of the season.
Absolutely.
And we'll see if that one loss affects their midseason rankings.
What a teaser. What a teaser.
The 11-year-old division saw number 3 Backyard Ballers Black out of Texas. They faced off with TBS number 7, Next Level Prospects, and this game didn't disappoint. Next Level jumped out to an early 2-0 lead, only to see the Ballers battle back and take a 2-run lead into the top of the 6th. Next Level didn't give up, and they hit a mammoth 2-run home run in the top of the 6th to tie the game and send it in extra innings. Next Level pushed across 2 in the top of the 8th and held off a very good Ballers team 6-4 in 8 innings. So another extra inning affair in the 11-year-old age group. This game went 8 innings and it took less than 2 hours to play.
How is that possible?
I tell you what, when you get teams of this quality facing off, Anthony, good pitching, good defense, not a lot of walks, not a lot of errors, it goes by fast. And they went 8 innings and played in less than 2 hours. And again, another game that I got to watch and just thoroughly enjoy watching those types of games. I don't care if they're 11, they're 9, they're 13. It doesn't matter. Good game's a good game. 10U was dominated by the TBS number 20 SBA Nationals. It was probably the only division that was a little unclimactic, I guess, as if that's a word. Line Drive Black put up a great fight. But the Nationals, they were just too deep with their pitching and their roster, and Nationals went 4-0 on the weekend and winning the 10-year-old division. 9-year-old championship game, though, that was a back-and-forth game that saw 4 lead changes in 6 innings.
Wow. Between
9-year-olds, right. And but the Dirtbags Black from North Carolina held off Line Drive Blue 12-10 in the finals. Dirtbags coach John Massey commented that he thought he had 2 or 3 heart attacks during the game watching these 9-year-olds make plays and do things. So an exciting weekend for everybody. It was beautiful weather. It was 78 and sunny every day out there by the ocean. So teams had a good time. I had a good time. It was enjoyable. So congratulations to all those guys out at the shipyard last week. All right, now we get to recap our adopted person here at lineup.
Yeah.
And you found some interesting information. Oh, we got a fumble here in the studio. We're going to reset here real quick. But you got some interesting information on deGrom that I wasn't aware of, and why don't you share that with our audience?
Yes, so here, we'll throw these up on the screen real quick. So this article came out last week as Jacob deGrom's dominance on the mound continues, but the Mets' woes as a team continue around him playing. So deGrom leads the major leagues by a wide margin in quality starts that did not result in a win over the last 3 years, putting up 40 quality starts that result in either a no decision or a loss. The next closest starting pitcher posted 25.
And I noticed that graph, it's all bundled up right there, 20, 21, 23, 24, 25, and then 40.
Yeah.
So, our interpretation of deGrom is not made up in our heads. I mean, this is a legit thing.
Yeah, we're not just finding, I guess we might be, finding the statistics that make our argument for us, but we're not the only ones finding those statistics to support the same argument.
That's incredible.
And then the next chart we found was the run support that deGrom has been getting over that same time period. It's staggering to see this, and he's, again, all by his lonesome in this bottom left corner of the lowest end of run support and the lowest ERA over the last 3 years. It is baffling to see. These are all things that we've known. We've talked about it ad nauseum, but to see it is a different.
So explain this chart to me here a little bit. The number on the left side, that's the run support per 9 for deGrom. So he's getting right about 4 runs in a game
Per 9. And over the last 3 years, and he is giving up
less than 2.
a touch less than 2 earned runs per 9.
I'm shocked that the run support is that high, honestly. I'm surprised. I thought it would be lower.
Yeah, it does seem. I mean, and obviously, if we were to put this season's on there, he'd be off the chart on the bottom. But yeah, over the course of 3 years, let's see, for what it's worth, 18, which is this date is 18 through 21. 18 was the year he won the Cy Young.
Cy Young.
So he had some support, I guess, enough for people to recognize that he.
So for baseball fans like me, when I look at this chart, Anthony, and I see that he's getting a run support of about 4 and giving up less than 2, I would assume he's winning 65, 70, 75% of his games.
I would too, but I guess it's also
the bullpen's failing him.
That too, and there's probably also outliers in there where they might score 9 on the luckiest of days, in which case you might want to go buy a lottery ticket.
Right.
For every one of those games, there's a couple of games where they put up a goose egg.
I would love to see somebody interview deGrom and go, if your team scored you 6 runs, how would you feel?
Like the luckiest man on earth.
Right. You'd feel like the luckiest man on earth. Well, he did pitch one time since our last show, and what did he do in that outing?
So he got a win.
Got to win.
4-2 against Arizona. Went 5 innings, 6 Ks, gave up 1 hit and 1 earned run. So solid outing. The Mets actually gave him right on the average that we just showed.
Right on the average. 4 and 2.
4 runs in support. And 2 against for the Mets. And then on the season, that brings his total to a 3-3 record with a .68 ERA and 65 strikeouts on the year.
0.68 and he's 3-3. God almighty, that's just crazy.
0.68, and that his ERA went up after the last start because he gave up one singular run.
It ballooned, right?
It went up from, I think it was like 0.51. I think it was at 0.51 before.
Well, we were debating whether he got pulled out of that outing. He had some tightness in his rib cage, and we thought that he went on the DL, but we looked and he did not go on the DL or the IL, whatever they call it nowadays. So hopefully he'll pitch later this week, and we'll have some stuff to talk about next Monday with him, because it's, to me, and I've talked to some people. I actually talked to some people in Charleston that commented on how they watch the show and they love the updates that we give on deGrom, and it's something they didn't notice until we pointed it out to them.
Well, yeah,
and we've heard that a little bit.
Yeah, imagine if you're not a Mets fan, who's watching every day, every game.
Sure.
Something you might not know. Certainly we didn't until we adopted him as our son on this show, or player, or whatever we need to figure out an actual title for him. But it's every week we will come onto the show and we talk about it, and it's still insane every week, the numbers that he's putting up compared to his record.
He had, in that stat, he had 6 on the year. He was 65 strikeouts and his ERA was .68.
Yes.
So he's matching his strikeouts for his ERA there.
Just about.
Well, speaking of strikeouts, something happened about a week ago that is a rare feat in baseball, college baseball, pro baseball, Little League baseball, you name it. And that was Kumar Rocker. For those of you that didn't see it, Kumar Rocker had an outing last week where he struck out 4 batters in 1 inning. Now, you say to yourself, well, that's an amazing feat, right? I mean, that's an impressive feat because we all know that there's a drop third strike involved and all that. And normally when something like that happens, pitchers get a little distracted, they lose focus, and it may lead to a big inning, but not in this case. But that's not where the story ends. He not only struck out 4, but he did it on the minimum number of pitches that is needed to do so, which is 12.
You told me this before we started recording. That might be the wildest part of the whole thing.
It is the wildest part. So Kumar goes out there, throws 12 pitches, all strikes, strikes out all 4 batters. And
incredible.
That's incredible. This is high-level D1 baseball. And like I said before, I don't care if you do it in rec ball or travel ball or high school ball, pro ball. That's impressive. And it's 12 pitches, 12 strikes. As a pitching coach, you got to be beaming like, hey, I taught him everything he knows.
Taking all the credit.
He's taking all the credit, right? So if you guys get a chance, check that out. It was pretty impressive. I watched it 2 or 3 times. Again, it was a drop third strike to get the runner on base. It allows him to strike out 4 in 1 inning. Listen, striking out 4 has happened before, naturally, but 12 pitches, that's pretty impressive.
Oh, yes.
That's pretty impressive. All right, let's something else that we're going to talk about. This guy didn't strike out a lot, and this is one of those feel-good stories that comes to you from Michigan, my home state. And this is 81-year-old Fred Robinson. I'm not sure where Fred's from, but it's in the Metro Detroit area. And he wanted to celebrate his 81st birthday by taking swings off of an iron mic machine. Now, if you don't know what an iron mic machine is, that's the machine that you feed the balls into, and you go to a batting cage and they spit them out to you, and you get to take your swings. And this was set up by a friend of mine, Tom DePonio, out of Michigan, and his organization and his complex here, the Precision Patriots. And they granted Fred his wish and allowed him to take some swings off the iron mic. And there was a video that unfortunately we didn't get to download, but it took a video of him taking his swings, and he did not miss a pitch. So I don't think Kumar Rocker would have blew 12 pitches by good old Fred there. And so Fred, from all of us at TravelBall Select and Athletx Sports Group, happy 81st birthday. I'm glad you got to take your swings off the iron mic, and kudos to Tom DePonio for making sure that happens. Now, Anthony, you don't know about the next thing that we're going to talk about.
That is true. On our agenda here, it just says surprise.
It says surprise.
I am eager to see what this is.
And the reason it's a surprise, because it was frankly a surprise to me, that I did not realize how multi-talented that you were.
Okay.
And I'm impressed with the video that was sent to me a few times of you kicking field goals.
Yes. Where did you see this?
Of you kicking field goals in Dallas, Texas.
Yes.
So tell us a story about this. What happened?
This was the first weekend in May. I was visiting some family in Dallas. My mom's side of the family is in Dallas. And so my wife and I went out there for the weekend, and my wife is a very, very staunch Cowboys fan.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I am a very strong Philadelphia Eagles fan.
Oh, boy.
So there is a rivalry in our household since from the moment that we met each other 10 years ago. That has been a key thing in our relationship that we are butting heads over, it's all.
Now listen, this is the same Philadelphia Eagle fan base that booed Santa Claus, right? I mean, that's the rumor that they booed Santa Claus.
Yes.
So that is a heated rivalry. I mean, that could have really kept you guys from getting married. That rivalry so intense.
Yeah, I guess it could have if it was negative in any way. Yes,
But
it
now
was
now it's all about bragging rights.
Yeah, basically. And so
you don't have to get into details, but there's got to be some friendly wagers that go on in Grassi household now when that game plays.
More just talking trash for the next however many weeks until the next game or until the next season starts.
All right, sorry. So continue. I'm sorry.
And so we went out for the weekend, and I'm a huge football fan, and my grandparents live on the way to their house from the airport. We always pass AT&T Stadium, and I haven't been to a game in AT&T Stadium. When I was like 12, me and my dad for Christmas one year, I was probably around 12. Me and my dad and my grandpa and uncle, the four of us, went to the Cowboys-Eagles game on Christmas Day in Old Texas Stadium, which is like a quarter of the size of this new stadium. And as a 12-year-old getting booed and having people yell at you and heckle you, it's pretty entertaining, I must say. Nonetheless, so we take the tour of AT&T Stadium. My aunt set it all up, and we picked my cousin up from school, toured the stadium. We were walking around, and the stadium's immaculate. If you're ever in Dallas and have an extra
beautiful stadium
hour, by all means, it's
beautiful
monument.
I've taken the tour. It's awesome.
Incredible. And so we went through the whole tour, and then it finishes on the field. And me and my cousin, we got down on the field. We're like, dang, I really wish we knew that, because we would have brought a football or bought a football beforehand. So we were like, oh, whatever. We're taking pictures, doing whatever. And then we're just hanging out. And I was taking some pictures, and my cousin was really eager to get a football and start going. So I said, all right, Dom, go and try to see if we can go back up to the store and then come back down, whatever. He goes, ask the security guy. The security guy has an extra football. So we start slinging it around. And my cousin started taking a couple kicks. I was like, all right, I'll try one. Now, for background, I kicked in high school.
Oh, okay.
So
I didn't know that.
I have some experience.
So you got some experience.
I played soccer for a long time. I kicked in high school, so I had some experience in this. But I was wearing like joggers.
Yeah,
and
I saw the video.
Sneakers that definitely didn't actually fit right, and yeah, felt real good. Felt incredible. Nailed it right down the middle.
You did. I saw the video, and
didn't.
Was it the first try?
First try, and I thought to myself, I'm going to back this up and try it again. But I knew if I did that,
while you're ahead.
I was either going to lose my shoe or I was going to yank it into the bleachers, and then the guy was going to lose the ball or whatever.
Quit while you're ahead.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, that's why that's something you'll never forget. That's pretty exciting.
Very.
All right. Unfortunately, some things transpired over the last time that we did our show that the only way I can describe it is a tragedy in youth baseball, and there was actually two things that took place. They are just devastating, both in their own way. The first one is the Reinhardt brothers, Rex and Brody, out of Florida, that tragically lost their life in a house fire. That shocked the travel baseball world, not only in Florida but across the country, because they played on teams that were very well known. Rex played for the Florida Heat 14-year-olds, and Brody played for the 11U Gator Ball out of Florida. They were well known around the Florida area, and our heart goes out to them. And we had both boys play in an event of ours that Coach Tabor, who fills on this show every once in a while, and we reached out to Coach Tabor for a comment, and Grassi, you got that comment from Coach Tabor.
Yeah, and our baseball youth elite teams were playing this past weekend, and Coach Tabor on his own came up with the idea of, as you can see on screen, embroidering the boys' initials onto our jerseys to, remember them. And Coach Tabor was traveling back today, so he couldn't join us to make a statement. But on behalf of baseball youth, he wanted to thank all the boys that were out playing for Baseball Youth Elite this weekend, representing the Reinhardt brothers on their jerseys and fought hard all weekend in their memory. And our thoughts all across the Athletic Sports Group family are with the Reinhardt family.
Yeah, and that one spread around over social media pretty fast. It was devastating news to hear. So again, our condolences to the family and everybody involved with that. There was also a second tragedy that took place in a little town in mid-Michigan, in Bath, Michigan, which is just outside of Lansing, basically in the middle of the state. Cooper Gardner was involved in a play at second base. He was covering second base in order to put a tag on a runner who was stealing, and the runner slid into the bag and ended up kneeing Cooper in the head, landed on top of him. Cooper was knocked unconscious for about 40 minutes, and they rushed him to the hospital, and he was in ICU for about 6 days. They sent him home, and next thing you know, he passed away at home from complications from his injuries. So it's something that you don't see very often in the baseball world, and for us to have two tragedies within days of one another is pretty hard on everyone in the baseball community, and we want to wish everyone involved with both tragedies. Hope they find the power they need to move forward and to heal. All right. That was a little tough. Let's move on to our next topic here. When a walk-off hit doesn't end the game. And I'm sure those of you that are looking at the screen right now are wondering what in the world are we talking about. And Anthony, you wanna fill in everybody on what we're talking about here?
Yes. So the play we're talking about takes us to let me pull this up real quick so I read this right. Takes us to the River States Conference Baseball Championship in the NAIA. We have Rio Grande and Midway. We'll play this clip in a second. In the bottom of the 11th, 2 outs, man on second.
This is a championship game.
So this is I don't know where in the conference.
No, it was.
It
was a championship game.
Okay, so we're gonna so we'll just run this clip. And I guess just make sure you are paying attention to all of the guys in red.
For those of you who haven't seen this video, this is a head scratcher.
Yeah, so as you can see, guy drills it in the center, drives home the run from second. Team is celebrating. Ecstatic. They won the game in extra innings. And as you can see here, absolute confusion ensues. And so, I don't know if we want to rewind and point out the glaring.
Yeah, can we rewind that and just pause it right at the point of the infraction that caused this chaos.
Yeah, so here's your moment right here. Look right at second base. You're going to see a gentleman in a red jersey and black pants turning around on the second base path. And he is about, what do you say, Rick? A step and a half?
Yeah,
shy?
He's probably a step and a half shy. Now, let me set up the scenario for you guys. This is the bottom of the 11th. There's 2 outs. There's runners at first and second. And they get a base hit to center field. The runner from second scores. But the runner at first never touches second base. So when that happens, the force play is still on. And if they record the out on a force, the run doesn't count. And that's what happened here. Just a total lack of focus. And listen, I get it. The young man was excited. They thought they just won the game, but he didn't complete, quote unquote, the play and step on second. All he had to do was touch it. He could have touched it and ran off. It wouldn't have mattered, but he needed to touch it.
Yeah, and you can, if you find the video online, the announcers are more confused than I was the first time I watched this. And you can see relatively quickly that there are certain players that caught on to this. I think the second baseman for Midway points it out to the shortstop. I think he just asked him, like, hey, did he touch second base? And I think they figure out, oh, maybe he didn't. And they try to get the ball back from the center fielder. And at a moment there when they are celebrating, you see one of the guys in red show up in the screen and point like, hey, you got to go touch second base. And by that point there,
it was too late.
It's complete.
Yeah, it's too late. Well, here's one thing that I noticed about this play, other than the obvious he didn't touch second base. I know a couple of weeks ago we talked about some umpire situations to where they blew calls and didn't do the right thing. But I want to give kudo props, if that's a terminology, to this set of umpires. They could have easily walked off the field too with the players, but they didn't. You want to know why? Because they knew the rules, and they stayed there. And they stayed there until the player touched the base. And then the umpire that was in charge of that call made the out like he should have. So kudos to those guys.
Yeah, the umpire second, you can see he's staying put. He knows, he's very well aware of what's going on. I think yes, if you see the ump who was near first starts walking off, and
right.
It seems like at least the guy at second is locked in and he's waiting for somebody on either team to touch second base.
Yeah. Yeah, and you notice that in the videos where the first base umpire is walking like the game's over. But the second base umpire, you can see when the people are running by him, he's not vacating his area. He's standing there. A good coach would know when he saw the umpire standing there, something's up. Because that's a telltale sign that something's up.
And I think at least one of the players did, because you saw one of the guys from the bench of the red team fly in and was like, hey, you got to touch second base.
That's a heads up by that kid will probably grow up and be a coach. Because that's something that you only notice if you're coaching. Why isn't the umpires walking off the field? Because when the game's over, the umpires skedaddle.
Right.
But if he's hanging around,
thumbs up.
Thumbs up. So the gentleman that hit the ball was Billy Cooper, right? Was it Billy Cooper? So here's Billy Cooper thinking that he has just won the game in the bottom of the 11th, only to find out that he hasn't. So they have to keep playing. So how many more innings do they go?
So this game ends up going to the 13th.
Two more innings.
And Billy Cooper walks the game off for Rio Grande in the bottom of the 13th inning.
So the story has a happy ending.
The story has a happy ending thanks to one very clutch player in the NAIA baseball world.
So not very often do you get two walk-off hits in the same game.
We've got 4 strikeouts in 1 inning, 2 walk-offs in the same game. We're just checking all the odd boxes
Two
today.
walk-offs in the same game. So we talked about this pre-show. The gentleman that didn't touch second base, and we couldn't find his name, but how relieved does he feel?
Oh, boy. He is within a big, heavy sigh of relief.
He might need
once
to
he gets back to the dugout.
He might need to take Billy Cooper out for a steak dinner.
Maybe more than one.
And we talked about this, right? So 2 hits, 1 win. So the blunder didn't hurt them. They ended up winning the game. But had they not won the game, that runner is something that he's going to have to deal with for the rest of his life.
Yeah, that's something You don't forget. Your teammates don't forget. Coaches don't forget.
In a bad way.
In a bad way.
But now that the result was what it was, with them still getting the victory, now they probably sit around and laugh about it.
Yeah, and they will remember one Billy Cooper in a very, very good way.
And in 20 years, when they have their 20-year reunion, the first thing they're going to say is, hey, remember the time you didn't touch second base and almost cost us a championship? Well, congratulations to Rio Grande and Billy Cooper and those guys as they won the championship game in dramatic fashion in more ways than one.
Yes.
In more ways than one. All right. Let's go on to our next topic here. And this topic was supposed to be about, it's mid-May. We are about 6 weeks away or so from the season being over for the 2021 season, which is hard to believe. But most teams kind of wrap it up in July, early July for the year and start looking forward to the following year and tryouts and stuff of that nature. So we were going to talk a little bit about on the show about what you expect when you go to tryouts. What do you look for? And it's really not baseball oriented. I mean, it kind of fits any tryout that you kind of go to. You want to know. And I'm sure, I'll throw it to you, Grassi, here is you're going to be a dad
at some point.
At some point. Right. We're not letting no news out of the bag here.
No
breaking news. At some point, you're going to be a dad. So what would you think would be important to you? You take your son to a tryout. What are you looking for?
I would think the coach is probably 1A or 1B.
Sure.
Given the style of the coach, what he can teach your son on and off the field.
Sure, that's two good answers.
The fit for your player in the roster of where they fit in the batting order, in the field, in the rotation, whatever it may be. I imagine that has become more of a important issue as people are trying out for either the same team or a different team in preparation for the following season. And I think there's probably some element of, depending on the player, what the schedule or the coach has the idea or organization has the idea of what the schedule will look like, given
that's a good one. As
a multi-sport athlete, when I was as a younger kid, what you are aspiring to accomplish.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a real good one.
Especially as, we've talked about this before and we will probably talk about it again. The prevalence of single sport players seems to be getting higher as all of the information and this data on where professional players and athletes at the highest level, what they are doing at the youth level, seems to point to that they are multi-sport athletes.
Yeah, for sure.
So those are probably the few that I would throw at the top of the considerations list. As a former coach and parent of a youth baseball player yourself, what have you looked for as you've gone through that decision-making process? Well,
I can tell you that you are going to make a good father because you hit on pretty much the big topics. And I encourage parents when you go to tryouts to talk to the coach. Don't be afraid to go up and talk to the coach and see what his philosophy is. Are you a coach that's going to move kids around and play everybody equal amount of time? Or are you someone that's going to play at a higher level and maybe teach the kids that some of them need to learn how to set the bench? Because that's a quality that I think all kids need to learn. So talking to the coach after a tryout is a big thing for me because you got a kind of sense of what he's doing if it is a good fit for your son. So that's a big one. And if you guys have some things that you'd like to add to what Anthony said, shoot us a message on the Facebook page here, and we'll address them as we go through the broadcast. But give us some of the things that you look for when you go to tryouts and what you expect. Now, one of the things, probably the only thing that you said, Anthony, that I don't agree with is when you talked about batting order. That shouldn't be an issue. It shouldn't be a factor whether your kid bats first or bats ninth or wherever. That's the coach's decision. It's the coach's call.
Yeah, and obviously that'll change from game one to the end of the season and everywhere in between. I guess I probably should be more precise in that and saying whether, I guess to your point, whether the coach has what his idea of setting the lineup would be, and if he's going to move players around or if he's going to set his, have his set lineup of guys.
Yeah.
But I guess more so I was trying to say the position as far as in the field, if they're going to move guys around or if
okay,
guys slotted in, this guy's playing shortstop, this guy's playing.
Yeah, and at the younger ages, you don't want to pigeonhole these guys into these.
Agree. But I think as you start to, I would think we've seen as kids get older that becomes more prevalent.
It does.
It seems like that is creeping down as well as the.
Yeah, you know what? You're probably right. It is creeping down. I don't like it.
Well, yeah, and it depends all on situation. It depends on the team. It depends on what they're playing in that weekend. Like if you're playing in the TravelBall National Championships, it might kind of influence whether you're moving guys around and being a little experimental. Whereas if that's the last event you're playing in the season, it changes a little bit.
And you're making a good point. And that's one of the points I wanted to touch on is if a coach is treating his lineup in a normal everyday weekend tournament the same way he would treat it at the TravelBall National Championships, then you really got to look and see if that's a good fit for you. Because, he's clearly not going to try to develop players and get them accustomed to different positions and stuff like that. So, that's important when you're looking for a team. You hit a big one there, allowing them to play other sports. When I coached, I was a big believer in having multi-sport athletes on my team because they were athletic. They proved they could do more than just play baseball or football or basketball or whatever the case may be. And some coaches are not allowing these kids to play other sports. They're kind of drawing the line in the sand, and I never agreed with that. I always wanted kids to play other sports. And keep in mind, during the fall, for example, it's football season. So when I coached in the fall, I expected my kids to commit to football. And if they weren't doing nothing, then come to baseball practice. I didn't want you sitting home playing Xbox or Call of Duty or whatever the game is, the hot game now is now. Come on out and we're going to practice, baseball. And once you get into the winter time, that was basketball season, and basketball comes first. But when you come to spring, I expected the same courtesy back. It's baseball season now. So I expect you to play baseball. Does the team travel? That's a big one.
Yes.
That's a big one that you need to talk to the coach, because you may be a player in a family that just has no desire to travel. You're fine with playing every weekend as long as it's local. You can drive back and forth to the games and stay at home in your own bed every night. But there's some teams out there that they want to travel every weekend because that's just what they do. Nothing wrong with it. I've made a lot of good friends traveling with my son, traveling with the teams that I've coached, going to the hotels, sitting around by the pool. You make a lot of friends doing that, so there's nothing wrong with it. Some teams find a good mix and a good balance. They'll tell you we're going to travel once or twice. Some will tell you we're going to travel 7 or 8. I've had kids that didn't play for me in the past because they didn't want to travel. I've also had kids come to me and play for me and leave other teams because they did want to travel. So you have to find that fit for you and your family.
Yes.
And families consist a lot of times of more than just one child. And my daughter got drug around to a lot of baseball games. But in turn, in fairness to her, as she got older, she was into gymnastics. I drugged my son to gymnastics meets in the wintertime, and he hated every minute of it.
But it was equal.
but it was equal. So it kind of showed them, both worlds. So we're curious to see what you guys look for when you're coaching. Cost. There's another one. Cost is a big factor.
Well, travel kind of plays into that as well.
Travel kind of plays into that. These big organizations, and you have to be careful when you're looking at a program. Are you going to play for an organization that has a high cost because they have a big fancy building that they got to pay for? And that happens a lot. So, make sure you know what your money's going to when you try out for a team, and you make sure you know where the budget lies. It can be as expensive as some of these organizations charge you $3,000, $3,500 to play for the year, and some organizations do it for $1,200. And makes you wonder, well, why is one $2,000 more than the other one? And then you see the big fancy building that they go in there and they hit in, and the rent in that thing ain't cheap. And the team is probably charging you $1,200, doesn't have a building, and they're outside all the time.
Right.
I'm not saying one's any more right or wrong than the other, but financially you have to find something that fits for you and your family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Playing time, again, everything I'm telling you goes back to communication with the coach. Don't be surprised. And whatever you do when you try out for a team and you choose that team for the year, stick it out. Stick it out. You're not teaching your kid anything by walking away, running away, team hopping. You're going to get a reputation. Nobody's going to want you. But you made a commitment for that year. Abide by it. Now, short of child abuse or
extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, just chalk it up to life's experiences and stick it out. And who knows? Things may turn around in a week or 2 or 3 weeks. Sometimes they never do turn around. But at least you've shown your kid that you've committed to something, that you've played it, and to stick with it. So that's one of my big pet peeves with the high-level travel ball world. There's not much loyalty. And it's both ways. I'm not blaming one side or the other, but there's not much loyalty between the players and the coaches and so forth. So I'll tell you a quick story. Back when I was coaching, one of the players left mid-season from another team. Good player. I would have loved to have him on my team. And he actually came to me in the middle of the season, and I wouldn't take him. I said, you know what? I don't have no room for you this year, and come and try out in the fall, and then we'll talk about it. And his parents were kind of put off by it, and he never come back in the fall. So it wasn't a kid for me anyway. Something like that happens.
One part of that, I guess, from the coach's side is up front, setting the expectations and sticking to the expectation once you set it. So throughout the year, everybody knows what they signed up for, and they know what to expect throughout the season.
Yeah, that's a great message, Anthony, for the coaches. We're sitting here giving parents messages on what they can look for in their tryouts. But you coaches, at the tryout, get your parents together. Thank them, first and foremost, for bringing their son out to your tryout. They have hundreds of teams to choose from, and they took out their time and day to come try out for you. And in that, tell them what they can expect from you. Tell them that we're going to travel 6 times a year. Or tell them we're not traveling at all. And that goes a long way with those families as well.
Yeah, and coaches that I've talked to, and that is not a bountiful amount, but at a high level, that seems to be when I ask them what the key to successful relationships with parents, to make sure that parents aren't disgruntled halfway through the season and trying to leave and bad talking you behind your back to try to get 3 of the kids to go to this team.
Sure, that happens a lot.
5 of you to go start this team with these other guys. Is setting the expectation so everybody knows what the deal is when you set out day one.
That happens a lot.
Well, and obviously people get disgruntled for any number of reasons, but as long as you know where you stand to start, if you're standing in the same spot at the end, nobody can really fault you for it.
Yeah, and find out the makeup of the team too. That's another big thing, the makeup of the team, because the society we're in right now, they have the grade eligible kids that sometimes are a year older, and we've talked about that on this show, and I hate it. And I'm telling you guys right now, for those of you that are listening, I'm telling you right now that TBS is taking a real hard look at changing our rule for next year of not allowing grade eligible kids. And I'd like to challenge the other organizations to take the same stand. USSSA and, Game Day and AAU. Who else am I missing? PG. I challenge you guys. Take the stand. Let's all of us in the youth organization do what's right and change this rule and do not allow grade eligible kids to play. I can tell you right now, I'm willing to do it, but I can't do it alone. I need some help. I need some other people. So find out what the makeup of the team is, and because that will make a difference in what you do as well. But the point of this, and we got sidetracked a little bit, and that was supposed to be the whole topic of this, or the conversation of this topic, was what to expect in tryouts. But in the last week, Anthony, I have seen on social media that people are already posting tryouts for the 2022 season. And we're not done with 2021 yet.
That is a bit odd.
It's
a little
troubling.
I guess they want to have all the kids available to them. I don't know.
There's nothing worse than anything. You've got anybody that's a lame duck president, a lame duck employee, lame duck anything. And a recipe for disaster is lame duck youth baseball players. Like, they finish out the season and, you had a tryout and, well, you didn't make the team for 2022. And I'm sure some coaches wait till after the season's over. But people talk. People are not stupid.
Yeah.
They know if they're going to be on the team for next year or not. And if you're not going to be on the next team, why finish out the 6 weeks then?
That's a great question.
Then you go look for another team. But, man, I wish coaches would get together and not do tryouts until July, or if you want to announce them that they're going to be trying out, July 7th or 8th or whatever the case may be. But to say that you're going to try out in May or even early June, man, I just don't get that.
I don't really either, but we're not the ones making that call, I guess.
I wonder if it happens in other sports. I don't know.
They're trying out during the season?
Yeah, towards the end of the season. And I know what somebody's going to say. Well, just because most teams are done in July, we're done May 31st.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a good argument. I mean, their season's over, so why wouldn't they have a tryout for the next season?
Yeah, because it makes if that is the case, then it makes sense for them that they can just kind of roll that hypothetical May 31st into tryouts, into getting the roster set, into practice, and on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah, it's not a good look, and I wish that I would stop seeing it on social media that they're posting tryouts, but to each their own. We can't control them. But just be mindful of what you're doing and your timing on it. And anyway, that's all I've got on that issue. And unfortunately, look at the time. We're running late again. We've gotten off on this. I want to talk about this Tommy John topic here in great length. I don't want to shorten it. So for that reason, we're going to bounce the Tommy John segment until the next week, because I really want to get into this and the effects that it have on baseball as a whole, all the way down to the youth level. So that's going to wrap up the show for tonight. I want to remind everyone, first of all, thanks for joining us tonight. And I want to remind everyone that next week we will do our ranking show, mid-season, and we will do 9 through 13 for our mid-season ranking. So hopefully everyone can tune in and join us for the lineup next week. And for now, I'm Rick Goff, your host, joined by my co-host Anthony Grassi. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight, and we will see everyone back here same time, 7 p.m. on the lineup.